the track edit window, which is a tiny version of the mixer that only shows one particular channel, hasn't changed a lot over the years, but then like a few years ago there were some major improvements, and since then I think it is one of the most important parts of Cubase. Some of these are really cool and also look pretty fancy, and I immediately used them, but I have to admit that there are some other things that look pretty boring which are really awesome, and I just found out after some time that these can help your workflow a lot, and I want to explain some of these functions right now. So what I mean, for example, is the top row. The top row looks not very exciting and I ignored it basically for a long time, but then I found out there are some really great functions in that top line which I want to share with you. One thing you can find here looks basically the same than in your project window or in your mixer, and it is this tiny cogwheel where you can personalize the view of this window. So for example, if I deactivate my channel sources, then it will vanish here, and if I activate it again, it will show up. So if you want more or less information, you can do so over here. The tiny cogwheel right next to it shows two additional windows, one for the direct routing and one for your signal path. And if you check these, then you see you will get two more rows in your channel editor window. And that is this one, which gives you the possibility to change the routing of your track. And also, in my case, this section here, which shows your signal path that I will explain in a moment. One thing that I didn't use for a long time are these arrows and the search function. At first I didn't know what these meant because, like right now, they are just grayed out, and if I click them, nothing happens because they have no function yet. So what I did for a long time is, when I wanted to work on a channel, I opened my channel view and then I closed it and I went to a different track and opened the window again and closed it and went somewhere else. And that is very time consuming and inefficient. Then I realized you can use this one window that you open for several tracks, and it is really simple to navigate if you use the top row. For example, if you use one of these two, then you can navigate in your track list up and down. So right now I'm at audio number 2, but if I use the arrow up, I will have the possibility to immediately show me the track edit window of channel audio number 1. So I can change the window for all the tracks that I have in my list here just by going up or down. So, and now something pretty cool happened, and that is, you see the first two arrows now got active, and that is because you can go back to the last window that you looked at. So if I want to work on this track here, I just can jump there immediately with my search function, and then I have my channel edit window open for the track that I wanted. But then I realize, oh wait, I want to go back and work on the track that I was just before, then I can use the go back arrow and I'm back at the channel that I used just before that. If I now want to go forward again to my instrument channel that I just looked at a few seconds ago, I use the forward button and can go back to that channel and to all the other channels that I looked before in a certain order. That is really cool and saves you a lot of time. Also, the up and down arrows to go to the track that is right next to yours and the search function help you to get to all the tracks really fast, and you don't have to close the window. And if you want to, you can just go back through all the tracks that you just looked at. So that function is really cool and a great time saver. Also interesting are these informations up here because they show you the signal path of your channel that you have opened. You can use this button to show the additional tracks where your track is routed to. And if you want to, you can just click on the edit button. For example, in my case, the group where I have routed my audio to, or the stereo out, and then your whole channel window will immediately change to that channel where you click the edit button. So if I want to go to the group channel because I'm working here on that audio channel and then I realize I have to do some changes in my signal path, for example on the group channel, I click the edit button for the group channel and I can do some work here. And if I want to, I can still see my signal path of the group channel. That means it is routed to the stereo out, and I can also go to my master bus and apply some changes here. So, and now if you want to go back, you have different possibilities. You can of course use the go back arrow. You could use your search function and go to a certain channel. But you also have up here the possibility to see what sources are routed to the channel that you are looking at right now. So since I'm in the master channel, I can see all the sources that are routed here. And if I click here, then I can see which sources these are. And I can, for example, see my group and I can jump there. Then I'm in my group channel again, and I can see that 2 tracks are routed to my group channel, and if I want to go to one of these, I just click that arrow for the sources, select one of these tracks, and I'm back at that channel that I have routed to the group track. Here in the middle, that is where you are right now, and that is all the destinations where your track is routed to. So if I click on that arrow, it shows me that my track is sent to the group and also to one effect. Like I said, with this button you can show your signal path over here. That is the same as clicking here on signal path. And here you have the possibility to load track presets or save them. If you made one of your own that you like and you want to save, then you can do so by clicking Save Track Preset. These track presets are sometimes a really good starting point and are really simple to use. You just go to Load and select whatever you need. For example, piano, pop, right, and you will see all the track presets that are suggested for this kind of sound. You also have a tiny functions drop down with some things you can do here in your channel window, and 2 things I use a lot. and that is to copy the whole settings of that track. If you do so, and for example, you have several backing vocals and you already know that a lot of these have basically the same settings. So what I do is I copy it here and I, for example, go to another track and I say paste, and it copies all my settings to that channel as well. One thing that is also really cool is that function that I will show in a moment when I talk about the panel. So in your channel settings, you have several tabs up here and also down here, where you can do various things. This here shows you an overview of your channel strip, that is the effects that you use here plus a tiny version of the equalizer. You cannot do that much in this window. You can, for example, do some minor changes in your equalizer if you want to do so. I do that rarely because that window is so tiny that it's not very good to work at here, but if it's just a basic thing you want to change, then it might work for you. And you can also select a certain effect you want to use, an effect preset, or bypass that effect section. But you cannot make any specific changes on that effect. If you want to do that, you have to go to the channel strip over here. The Inserts tab is obviously for loading inserts, and that's basically it. But there's two more things that are less obvious. One is you have a routing possibility for your inserts. So if you go to the routing tab down here and click on the drop down, then it is possible for you to change the routing of your inserts. Also, you have a preset button for your inserts and a global bypass, which bypasses all the inserts you loaded at once. The second thing is this green line here. If you click it, then you see you can drag it up and down. And that line is for defining how many slots you want to have pre or post. You can also see it. If I hover over that field, you can see it's called pre, and down here it's called post. So the green line is all the slots above are pre-fader and all the slots below the green line are post-fader. Here in the channel strip overview window, you have a global bypass button that deactivates or bypasses all your channel strip effects. And you also can, if you want to, click Alt and on bypass. That would give you the possibility to reset all the effects that you have applied here in your channel strip. You also have the possibility to load presets and save yours, and for almost, not all of them, but almost all of the effects, you have the possibility to bypass them single and load different versions of these. So in your saturation section, you have 3 different saturation tools: the magneto, the tape saturation, and the tube saturation. In your compressor section, you have a standard, a tube, and the vintage compressor, which you can all open in a separate window to have a better overview over the functions and additional metering sections, or in general more functions. In the tools, you have a de-esser and an envelope shaper. The noise gate is just a noise gate. And in the limiter sections, you have a brick wall limiter, the maximizer, and a standard limiter. With these tools, you can already do a lot of good for your sound, and I think that is one of the major improvements that makes working here in this channel window way better than it was just a few years ago. You already could see a few seconds ago that the view of one of the slots changed because you have the possibility to change the routing in your channel strip as well. That you can do here in the channel strip slot, and it's really easy. You just click it and hold it and drag it at another position, and you see right now the saturation and the equalizer changed their places. So you just hold it and drag it somewhere else, and then your routing gets changed. That you can also do by holding over here, and you drag it just anywhere where you want to have your noise gate. If you want to have it in front, you drag it there, and as simple as that, you can change the routing for all the effects here. I am not going to explain all the effects. That I will do in another video. I just want to show what is possible here in the track edit window. So the next slot would be the equalizer. Again, you have a bypass button, you have the possibility to reset the equalizer, and you have the possibility to load or save presets for your equalizer. The equalizer has become way better and has a lot of nice functions. I already explained these in another video. I will leave a link in the description for that if you want to watch it. Just real quick, a few things that is important here for the channel view as well. You have a nice function where you can compare two equalizers in one window. If you click this button here, then you will see in blue the channel that you are looking at right now, and in orange another channel that you can load from a drop-down menu. And now if I play my tune, then you can see the two curves. The one in blue, that is the channel I'm working at right now, so audio number 2, and the one in orange is the one I wanted to compare to this one. For example, to see if they are clashing in some frequencies, and maybe if I have to do some adjustments so that they won't be in the way of each other. If you want to make adjustments to the curves and the equalizer view, you can reset the FFT curves over here with this button, and if you want to have another view of your equalizer, for example, if you don't want the sliders, then you can change it back to the knobs. I think that was the view from earlier versions of the equalizer. And you can show the FFT curves or activate the whole peak curve, and you can say how much you want the transparency for your reference curve and the second curve you want to compare. You also have a tiny pre-section here in your channel view that you can also bypass and load presets. That includes a high pass and a low pass filter, so that means you have 2 more functions to these 4 bands that you have in your equalizer. You can change the slope of your high and low pass filter. You can change the gain of your track and invert the phase. One more thing for your channel view here is you can change if you want to go in your channel strip first and then in your inserts, or if you want to go in your inserts first and then in your channel strip. That also goes super easy. You see this button here, and right now I have my channel strip first and then my inserts. But if I click that button, you see these two change places, and then I go first in my inserts section and then in my channel strip. Now a few more things over here that also doesn't look very interesting. It is just the normal sense function which has been here for ages, and it is just you can activate a effect, you can put it pre or post fader, you can of course change the level that you want to send to that effect and so on. You can send your track to another effect by going in the drop down and selecting it. And you can also, I think that is pretty cool, immediately load another effect here into your send. If you right click that window and say, I want to have another send effect put in here. That gives you the possibility to select an effect and you say, okay, do that. And that means another effect track was created and automatically activated in your send section. What a lot of people don't know about this part here is that you also have the possibility to do the queue routings. That is only possible if you have your control room activated, which I don't have right now. So that gives you the possibility to route this track to the 4 monitor headphones that you have in your control room. So if you want to send this track to the headphone number 1 with that level, to 3 with that level, then you can do so here. I think you can also do some panorama changes, but that also doesn't work right now if the control room is deactivated. One more thing that is really interesting here is you can also make panorama changes for your effects. So you see, I have 3 panorama slider here because I have 3 effects activated. And for example, I could say, well, my track is more on the left, so I want the reverb to be more on the right. That would give a nice possibility to do some panorama changes for your effects as well here in your channel window. And that is not affecting the overall panorama of your effects. So if I go again to, let's say I have my reverb here and I go to my reverb, you see the reverb is still panned in the middle. Even though I have put the panorama of my effect to the far right, that is not the panorama of the effect channel itself. It just changes the sound of this amount that I send to my effect. On the far right, of course, you have your normal mixer view with the panorama and the mute, solo, listen and edit button, which right now has no function because I already am in the channel edit window. But if I change to an instrument track, Then again, this button will have a function because I can open the VST over the channel edit button if I use the Alt or Option key or click and hold this button. You have your volume fader and write, monitor, read, activate. You can also change the color of the track down here if you want. But one thing I said in the beginning I wanted to show to you is really cool. A lot of people don't know that the panner of the track has different functions. For example, you can deactivate it, so switch it on and off. And you can see that it becomes blue or grayed out. And you can change it from a normal stereo balance panner to a stereo combined panner, which gives you the possibility to change your panorama to a certain wideness and move that wideness to a certain point in your panorama. But that is not enough. You also can open the panner in a bigger window and do a second version. So for example, let's say I want to try out different panorama settings without going, I drag it over here and over there. Then I can just switch to B and back to A and compare these two just by clicking A and B. But there's even one more function. That was the one that I told you in the beginning about that I wanted to show later on. That is the function down here. And that kind of connects the panner of your channel with the panner of your effects. And that is also really cool because then the panorama of your effect will always change to where you drag your normal panner of your channel. And that means that the effect that you have activated always will basically sound where your panner is positioned here for your main source sound. So that is it. I hope you found some interesting informations here. If you know more about this, if you want to know more about this, leave a comment or a thumbs up if you like this, and subscribe to my channel.